Welcome to High Performance, the podcast featuring Josh Vegan and Alexander Phillips. In today's edition of the program, we've got a special edition in part 2 of a live interview recorded at List Sell Negotiate featuring Alexander Phillips and his brother, William Phillips.
So in terms of a database, we like to break it down in two sections. There's building a database and then there's nurturing it. So you can see the importance of qualifying, building.
So what would you do with that person now? Okay, you've looked at their place. They're going to buy first.
Yep.
What are the next steps of something that you do with someone like that? You know,
to build the relationship, then it will form. There'll be two parts. It'll be you try and show them that you're not just focusing on their house.
Yeah.
So you will just service the shit out of them in terms of what they're looking to buy for, and you'll show them that you care, that you know what you're talking about. You'll tell them about other agencies, properties that hit the market. Mm-hmm. It's about speed of service and showing them that you actually care. Yeah. And then, when the time is right, if you're good enough, you're going to pick up to get into their property anyway.
Yeah, sometimes it's almost better off not asking to get into the property and building that relationship because I'll call you in anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the next question, which relates to the building section of a database, is why do you make so many calls? We hear in agents in these sessions, in the Josh's online training sessions, Alex does 100 calls a day. Charles Toomer makes 150 calls a day. Macleay Longhurst does all these calls. Why are we making so many phone calls? And then I guess the second part we can get to after is, if you're starting, who would you call now? But yeah. Alex, can you tell us why you make so many phone calls?
Yeah, I suppose because if you've got those 2,500 people in your database, you've got to touch them so many times a year, which I think is at least 5 or 10. So even if you just...
So you're saying if they're on your database, you want to touch them 5 times a year?
5 to 10 times at least.
Right.
Yeah, and mainly that's calls. Plus, then you've got obviously all the other stuff with letters and whatnot. But I think it's more...
So what would you call them about? Let's say you 5 times a year is a lot. Is it?
It's only something that's relevant for them. Like the semi I just sold in 9 Belgrave Street, Bronte. I called every person in that street. I typed in Belgrave, then I typed in Reed Street, then I typed in Bronte, and I just eventually call everyone around it. And the way you think about it is, if you're on the front foot and you call them before they see the sold sticker, then they're almost like a sales team for you as well in the marketplace. So they go pick up their kids from school and they go, "Did you hear what Alex sold 9 Belgrave Street for?"
Yeah.
And the amount of people that we call by saying, we notice you sell everything in the area, or you've sold for friends of ours, and you don't even know who they are. But because you're consistently keeping in touch with these people, even if they're past clients and they've only just bought through you've got to maintain the relationship. So it's
I think also that role play we just did, where let's say you do have that owner that says, "Don't worry about what street I'm on." You go back to the office. They don't want to talk to you. They don't want to have anything to do with you. Let's say they weren't a seller at all. You go back to the office, RP Data or APM, the surname. You find out the street straight away. You put them on your database. As soon as you have a good piece of information, if you call them and say, "Look, a house has been listed next door to you or across the road," they want to know. They want to be your best friend.
Yeah, exactly.
If you call them and say, "Oh, just checking in on how you're going, you're looking to sell," they're going to tell you to piss off.
Yeah, that's really a good point. That.
So
how many calls do you make a week? Would you say?
The developing guys in our office, I probably make less than I used to or that I should, but. They would be making probably, we look at it from a day and we're looking at about 70 to 100 calls and 30 to 50 connections.
And what are the reasons for the calls?
Same, good quality touch points. Yeah. The reason the juniors do so many calls is to, which is the second part of the question, which we'll get to, is to build up their database. So they need to find people they can actually have these touch points with. At the moment, if they don't have owners, then what are they doing? So we encourage them to do old calls, old domain inquiry, obviously current calls. They qualify at open homes.
Do they do any cold calling?
Yeah, they do a bit. Yeah. Do you guys?
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
Yeah.
And cold calling is an interesting thing because I'm selling properties now where I cold called 10 years ago. And that first time I called them was a cold call, but every single call after that, we're building a relationship. So there's a property I sold on Bronte Road earlier this year for 3.5, and I was the only agent in the door.
Yeah.
Signed it up at a good fee, and there's no competition because they felt obliged to use me. And that's what you want. You want to get to that point where you're the only one in the door because they feel obliged to use you because you've kept them up to date with good information throughout 5-10 years. And that's like what Josh said a moment ago, it's a long game this. So it's you've got to be prepared for that.
Yeah, I think a good example of who to call now, when Macleay joined our office, Macleay's one of the agents, and he's probably the highest performing agent at our office now, apart from the directors, is that he's only been a sales agent for 2 and a bit years now, and a standalone, and when he joined, he's been in sales for 4 years. He literally just hit old callbacks every day, and he's got a database of 2,000 people in about 3 years.
How many sales will he do this year?
He's doing 100k personal a month now. I don't know what that is. I don't know how many sales, 5 to 10 sales a month, but that gives you the idea of the level that if you want to get sort of towards the top, the amount of calls you need to make and the amount of people you need on your database.
It's hard work, really, isn't it?
Yeah. Very. We've sort of touched on this one.
Go to the next one.
Next one?
Yeah.
This is a good question.
Yeah, I think probably it's interesting what Josh said, how many appointments I do a month. And I probably think about half of my appointments is still buy work. And for anyone that I meet at an open home on a Saturday that they've got a property to sell that are interested in a house, the next appointment is a one-on-one buyer appointment. To build that relationship, they then ask you about, oh, why don't you come around to my house? You know, not us sort of trying to get in the door. But I think, you know, it's something that is really important for particularly the young guys out there. Well, how do you actually stand out amongst the crowd? And it's giving really good service. And to give really good service is when you get a buyer, they've got a property to sell, or even if they don't have a property to sell, they're an underbidder, and you show them every agent's property within your agency, which all agencies should be able to do that. You're emailing them, you know, weekly, you know, property alerts even. You're calling them about other agents' properties. And even if they buy through someone else, when they go to sell in 3 years' time, because they go on your past client database anyway and you've kept in touch with them, you're the only agent that's going to get in the door.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think a lot of agents just look for that listing, the next listing, but it's building a relationship with, you know, having 100 of those on the go. Well, not probably 100, but probably 20 key buyers on the go at one time. 10 of them will buy through you, 10 through other agents, but there's 20 potential past clients that you will get in 5 to 10 years' time.
Yeah.
What do you do?
Oh, look,
do you still do buy work yourself?
Yeah, Bressy Whitney have always been a huge. That's pretty much what the business was founded on, was helping buyers, because a lot of people weren't helping buyers. All they do was focus on their next immediate listing. Ivan goes as far as saying, and I don't know if I agree with this, but he goes as far as saying to people in the office, if you're not doing buy work now, you won't be an agent in 5 to 10 years. And he makes a point in saying that if you're only focused, if you're not doing buy work, I think what he's getting at is that the behaviour of buy work shows a long-term approach. If you're making calls to find the next listing or to hope that a potential seller is going to pick up the phone, then you're playing the wrong game. If you're doing buy work to build a relationship because they're going to sell in 3 to 7 years, or you're nurturing a database to give them good info because you want them to call you when they're going to sell, that's the space you want to be in. And for the juniors or the people who don't have a sizable database, buy work is a great way to build your own database and have a nourished database. You've got to have a good sized database, but of relationships as well.
And again, it's going back to that point that when they go to sell, they feel obliged to use you. But also, if you're an agent starting out and you're trying to get listings and you go out there and you're up against 2 other lead agents, there's no way in the world you're going to get the business.
Yeah.
So you can only do that by having a good relationship.
Do you want to give them that example of you went for a listing and they got a call from 3 different people in your office about from when they were looking to buy? 3 different agents call them.
Yeah. So recently,
this is probably a good example from at a business level about the behaviour of buyer work.
And recently, listing in Queen's Park, we went on, and I said, well, you know, why are we here? Why am I out here? And they go, we know you sell a lot in the area. And I said, oh, what are you looking for in an agent? And they go, we want someone that's got a good database that gets lots of buyers through the door. But the one thing we don't like about your agency is, like, we've had 3 calls from separate agents in your office giving us, you know, putting properties in front of us. And I said, well, hang on, you know, they're actually there doing the right job, getting as many properties in front of you. Yes, it's obviously hard for us to, you know, manage that, but they go, yeah, you're actually right. You know, they were really proactive. They serviced us.
So they can see it when
they gave us all the right information when we need it. And it showed you that we had a collective database, which a lot of agencies don't, and we won the business.
So you showed them when they list that you're going to do the buy work that
exactly.
they expect.
Yeah, and we work as a team too.
A few things we've touched on: qualification, buy work, database management. How does this add to your profile in the area, and how long does it take?
I think you've got to be thinking at least 5 to 7 years before you get a profile. Going back to what you said about what would I do if I started out again, everyone talks about having patches, and I think you do have to have a patch of where you're selling, and you call every open house book in that patch that any agent in your office has sold. You're chasing any expired listing. You're going to every single open home in that area.
Yep.
You're driving around the streets to get to know the streets. You're going to every single auction in that area. Product knowledge, this is one thing Shannon taught me when I was at McGrath. Product knowledge gives you power, and it does. And if you become a confident agent because you know the marketplace and you work in a certain patch, I think you obviously win a lot of listings over other agents.
Yeah.
What would you do if you started out again?
It'd be I would have made more calls initially. Shannon was because I was Shannon's assistant for 3 years, and Ivan was very hungry in terms of making calls, and I didn't make as many calls under Shannon as I wish I did, and built my database as quickly. So that'd be the first thing, and then the rest is what we've been taught, which is just to immerse yourself in the market. Like you said, you've got to help buyers. Buyers see you at your open homes. They see you attending auctions. You become a professional because they see you everywhere. They hear from you. They hear from you first. And that's pretty much it. Yeah.
So I think that's pretty much it from us.
I think we're out of time.
So hopefully you got something out of it. I suppose we're also quite different in the way we do our business, I think. But if you have any questions for either Will or I, can just email us, and we can. I'm more than happy.
Always happy to help.
Always happy to help. So thanks for having us.
Cheers, guys. Thanks, mate.
Thanks, Reggie. Thanks, mate.